Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network and, of course, a part of Lower Broad Hockey. My name is Braden Gall. You can get to me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Braden Gall.
And I'm Emma Lingan. You can get to me at Emma_Lingan.
Totally changing up the rotation today. If you're watching on YouTube, I don't know why we decided to do that, or I decided to do that. But if you are watching, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the 440 Sports YouTube page. You get lots of great content across all Nashville sports, so make sure you check that out. And if you want to jump into the comment section, of course, that's a great place to interact with the show. You can do so there. And also on Twitter and Facebook, please share the product while we're at it as well. So lots of stuff to do today.
Wait. Does Michael not get to introduce himself?
Hi, I'm Michael, by the way, in case you don't know who I am. Apparently, I'm not born enough to the show to get my own introduction. So
I was so focused on all the fancy things I've got planned for the show today.
Michael, I think you're a fancy thing too. That's okay.
Thank you. It's all right. I'll just sit here in silence.
Oh my God, I'm coughing. I'm so sorry, Michael.
I was like, wait.
All right, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network.
No, moments pass now. It's just keep going. Just keep going.
Oh my God. All right, today on the show we will have Michael.
I'll use the raise my hand feature if I want to chime in.
Michael Gallagher will talk about hockey today on the show. That's what's
maybe if I'm allowed to.
That was funny. I'm sorry.
You can. You just can't introduce yourself before you.
At MG Sports _ folks on the artist formerly known as Twitter.
I do have a Twitter handle. Yes, thank you.
Oh God. Okay. The Preds are getting points, and we will. That's a scientific term. We will discuss why, how, and if all of that stuff can be sustainable. Is it sustainable as to what changes have actually happened, what changes have actually been made to the team, and we will discuss whether or not any of those things are something that are they problems that have actually been fixed, or is it a product maybe more of not necessarily getting lucky, but a schedule that's not necessarily too difficult with Columbus and Chicago. We've got a really tough schedule coming up for this team in just a little bit. Juuse Saros has been great. I got some theories on the power play. I want to get y'all's thoughts on the Central Division. Utah's already making trades. Winnipeg started the season 8-0. What's going on with Colorado? So I'll get your thoughts on a lot of the Central Division stuff as well. If you missed the conversation with Adam Vingan, of course, you can check that out on lowerbroadhockey.com. Make sure you go check that out. And as I failed to allow you to introduce yourself, Michael, I also have not mentioned our sponsors. So I am way out of whack this morning. I'm assuming it's because Halloween is this week and my children are insane, but that would be rude to blame it on them. So I'll blame it on Halloween. Otherwise, Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Lots of stuff planned for you guys today when it comes to those two great and amazing local sponsors. So make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages, 4-time Liquor Store of the Year, and the recently named craft beer retailer, the best craft beer retailer in the city by the Nashville scene. So make sure you check that out. And recently named best barbecue in the city, of course, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, as voted on by the writers' poll. So make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. They have your entire Thanksgiving meal planned, so I'll tell you about that, and I'll show you some photos a little bit later on. That's why I was all distracted, guys, before I let you guys go. Okay. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. They're great. They're amazing. You guys are great and amazing, so go use them. They support good local business. Keep that money in the community. Let's ask. I'm just going to ask this in general. Why did the Preds go on a 4-game point streak, in your opinion? What is the main driving reason and force behind getting off the schneid and collecting points in 4 straight games? 2 against very good competition and 2 against not so great competition. Michael can go first.
Oh, how magnanimous of you. I don't really know. I think is a great answer starting off here. I think Juuse Saros has a lot to do with it. He was named the second star of the week, saved 60 of 62 shots. I think he playing on a Juuse Saros level had a lot to do with it. And I think the offense just kind of, they were able to, I mean, we saw they came back in a couple games. 2 of them went to overtime. You really wish they would have pulled that one out in Tampa. But I mean, I think the offense finally, Philip Forsberg has been pretty good generally all season, but I think we're starting to see some other players kind of chip in a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're starting to see, I mean, we've talked about it before. I don't think it's any one reason, but I think that, you know, you're seeing guys communicate with each other. Again, men communicating, what a concept. And then you're seeing some more consistency with the the line combinations, and you're kind of seeing guys just looking a little bit more comfortable, I think. So it hasn't always been pretty. In fact, it usually hasn't been. The fact that they've fallen behind 2-0 in 3 straight games and then come back to tie it, it's good. You're seeing resiliency and you're seeing that fight in them. But again, you also like they haven't really had a definitive win yet this season. I mean, I guess even Boston didn't really feel like it, even though it was 4-0. It just, I don't know. It didn't feel like they dominated a full 60 minutes of that game. And I'm still kind of waiting to see that.
I'll also chip in too. I don't think this has been like a huge driving factor for them, but I do think the youthful energy that Zach LaRue has put into the bottom six, you can kind of, it's tangible. You can see it on the ice. You can tell that the fourth line that he's playing with, like you can tell it like McCarron's played a little bit better. Smith has played a little bit better. So I'm not saying like LaRue single-handedly has like revamped the bottom six, but adding a player with his energy and his grit, I feel like the bottom six perform better with him in the lineup than it has before he was in the lineup.
Patrick asked a question kind of following up off the LaRue stuff. I was going to ask you, Michael, about, because I know Joachim Kemmel also had 5-point night and was the first star in the AHL on Saturday, so I was going to ask you about that. But Patrick says, does LaRue getting all this playing time mean they're moving on from Tomasino, or will there be a rotation between them and Parson? And my first thought on that question is it's very fluid. LaRue's going to play as long as he is playing well and or not hurting the team, which he's doing. He's learning how to be a professional. And ultimately, I think Tomasino is a very good trade chip potentially when it comes time to put a package together, whether it's Fabro plus Tomasino plus prospect plus draft pick for who's your boy, Michael? Who's your boy? You convinced Adam Vingan. He's on board now.
Or Adam's on the Trevor Zegras train?
He's on the Trevor Zegras train.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I can retire now. I have persuaded Adam Vingan to do something.
So I think Tomasino is going to be a part of the plan one way or another. I don't know what way that's going to be, but it will be a part of the plan.
You're talking about a former first-round pick who's still, 22, 23? I know that they gave up on Ellie Tolvanen really early. I don't want to keep comparing the two because I do think they're different situations where Tolvanen just didn't have a spot in the lineup, and granted, John Hines was his coach, so it's hard to fault him for that. Whereas Tomasino, it's not that he doesn't have a spot in the lineup, it's just that he doesn't really fit with what they have right now. If they have too many forwards, and the same thing with Parsonen, like eventually you think one, maybe both of them is going to be gone. And if LaRue keeps playing the way he's playing, it's hard to justify taking him out of the lineup and sending him back to Milwaukee. I mean, he hasn't made any glaring mistakes. He's had some hits. He's done everything he's needed to do. He's kind of stabilized, been a stabilizing presence in that bottom six. So as long as he doesn't give them a reason to take him out of the lineup, I think he's in the lineup for good now. Like until he does something glaringly bad and they're like, okay, we got to sit this kid. But I said this on the last podcast, he's someone you don't really worry about confidence, you don't really worry about nerves with him. He's just kind of very steady, even keel. So I think this is like a permanent call up for him. I do think that Tomasino has some trade value, obviously not by himself, but you could package him, send him somewhere else, give him a fresh start. I mean, we've seen it with Cody Glass, we've seen it with Kevin Fiala, just guys that, Tolvanen wasn't traded, he was put on waivers and he got claimed, but guys getting fresh starts and leaving here, like it's the Predators have a track record with it. Talented players, for whatever reason, they can't stick with the Predators lineup and they go somewhere else and they have success. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tomasino's another one of those guys.
Interesting question here from Christopher, and this was not necessarily how I was going to start the show, but you guys are taking it there, and I appreciate it. Why would anyone want to be drafted by the Predators when it seems they make prospects wait so long to become NHL players? Couple of things there. Number one, if you are a goaltender or a defensive prospect, you definitely want to get drafted by the Predators at any point over the last 28 years, 27
preferably
years.
In the second round.
If you are an offensive player in previous eras, I could understand a la Radulov or even Vesey, who are not necessarily, one of those guys is pretty talented. The other guy was meh. But like I could understand in a previous era, a bygone era of Predators hockey, that maybe, hey, this organization is not elite at developing offensive skill players. Maybe blah, 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 blah. I should go somewhere else. But I don't think that holds true recently. I mean, Luke Evangelista was called up pretty early. Juuse Saros was called up pretty early relative to his draft status. And Seth Jones was called up pretty early. Now, are there a lot of teenage phenoms that come up and play on this team? No, there hasn't been over the course of history. But are they? LaRue's in the lineup right now. Evangelista, Parson, and Tomasino, like these guys were fairly young when they got called up and got their opportunity to prove if they belong. And I think ultimately that's what matters. Are you given an opportunity to prove if you belong? Tolvanen was given like the 9-game thing, like as like a 20-year-old, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something I want to address this because I've seen a lot of people. There's been a lot of discourse, even in our group chat on Lower Broad Hockey on Substack. Like, and I feel like I don't know if I can convince people of this. Like I convinced Adam to get on the Zegras train, but we need to let go of this organization can't develop forwards because I think everyone's still got the David Poile mindset. It's very different when David Poile was the GM, and I feel like Poile looked at prospects more as trade chips than as develop and get them to the roster, whereas Barry Trotz is very much invested in getting these guys to the roster and building a roster with these guys. Also, Barry Trotz is in year 2 of being a GM. He's still working with the David Poile scouting department. Not that he's going to fire anyone and move on, but he's going to bring in some of his own guys. Like things are going to get different, and you also look at how they're being drafted and developed. Back when David Poile was the general manager, like the Milwaukee Admirals coaching staff, you had Dean Evason, you had a couple other guys there. Dean Evason left for another job. Carl Taylor is going to be an NHL head coach someday. If I'm an offensive forward or offensive player, I want to go play for a guy like Carl Taylor. Why would you not want to go to the AHL and play for someone who's going to be a future NHL coach? And then you look at Andrew Burnett, highly regarded around the league, was a finalist for the Jack Adams Award last year. Like, the coaching staff is also different. So yes, I understand this mindset of like, oh, it's been so bad before, but it's a different regime. You got to let it go. I understand kind of having trepidation about like they've never been able to draft a forward and develop them before, but it's a different time. There's different people in place. So give it a chance before you just doom and gloom.
All right, fair enough. And I think that's the right way to look at it. Patrick says, does wait so long not hang on a second here. Does wait so long mean not a teenager? Some of these guys are still young. If you think about old as being 30, yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at. Emma, your thoughts on Leroux and sort of the job he's done so far? Is it permanent? Is it long term? I'm hesitant to say yes to that. I kind of agree with everything Michael's saying. I just am hesitant to say, very few guys come up like Evangelista and just are like, boom, you're in the lineup now forever the rest of your career.
Well, I'm hesitant too, but I think this is where we're trending with it.
Yeah, I think, Andrew Burnett is a guy who he keeps younger players on a short leash, I think, and he prefers a known commodity, that's for sure. And so I think he's probably going to have a very short leash with Leroux. And I don't think that he's done anything to have that leash yanked on him. I think the moment he does, though, fair or not, this is Andrew Burnett's track record. I think the moment he makes a mistake or something, like a big mistake, then he's going to have that leash yanked on him. And that's just having watched Andrew Burnett over the last 2 years or year plus.
To Emma's point too, you have the luxury of sending Leroux back to Milwaukee. You can't do that with Tomasino or Parsons because they're not waiver exempt now. So the moment he does make that big mistake, I can see them being like, okay, kid, you had your 10 games. We're sending you back. We're going to put Tomasino or Parsons back into the lineup because like you have to find out what you have in those guys because this is it. This is their year. If they don't blow you away this year, they're not going to be on this roster next year.
Yeah, those guys in particular. Anything else? We were going to do sort of AHL and Leroux and some of the prospect stuff a little bit later on, but since we're on it now, we might as well kind of knock it out, get it out of the way. Anything, Michael, you want to add about what's going on in the farm system? You've got Joachim Kemmels with a hat trick and 5 points on Saturday night last weekend, and Del Gaizo now back, which we're going to get into the Fabro conversation because that's interesting. But anything else from the farm that you want to make sure people get? And I'm going to move your face around while we do this. Watch this. Oh, there we go.
Oh, I don't have the big LBH.
Yeah, you don't have the logo blocking.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kemmel still not ready. I understand. I understand a 5-point game is really impressive. I think you should be optimistic about where he's at because last year the conversation with him was like, oh, he only had 40 points. I think people were expecting a big season out of him. And I think a lot of people forget that he's still very young. He was one of the youngest players when he was in the J20 league, and he was one of the youngest players on the Admirals last year. He's still learning. I look at this year as kind of touchy subject for me. I look at this year as the year Igor Afanasyev had last year, where like, okay, you worked on your defensive game, you worked on being a well-rounded two-way forward. Now go out and unleash your offense and let's see what you got. And I think this is kind of The same thing for Kemmel. I still don't think he's ready. He might be by midseason. He might be by the end of the season. But I do think Kemmel's someone who will be challenging for a roster spot next year. So let's pump the brakes, because I know people have been trying to rush him to the NHL for the last 2 years. But look, 4 goals, 7 points, 7 games. There's a lot to be encouraged by there. Leroux played really well before he got called up as well. But a lot of the guys in Milwaukee that are making contributions and really playing impressively, Vinny Hinostroza, Cal O'Reilly, Kiefer Bellows, these aren't prospects. These are guys that are depth pieces that are nice to have in your back pocket to call up if you have an injury or something like that. But I mean, other than that, like Blankenship, I'm thinking football. Reed Schaefer, 4 points in 7 games. He's had a solid season. I think Svechkov, he's got two goals and 3 points in 3 games. I think he's someone to watch out for, because we all know Barry Trotz is really high on Svechkov, and I think he's someone who could potentially get one of those late season call-ups as well. But other than that, the farm system's been relatively quiet besides those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah. All right. So I want to go back to the streak here, and before we get into, so like there's 2 things that I think that are pretty obvious, and I think that they are sustainable, because I think if you wanted to argue that, hey, these are 2 bad teams in the middle there, Chicago and Columbus, and that 3 straight games now you've been down 2-0, along with some games before the Boston game, that those are concerning things. That having to fight from behind is not something you can survive on the entire season. You can't go all year falling down 2-0 and then fighting your way back. There are 2 reasons, though, why I think we have permanently changed and turned a corner. It doesn't mean there's not going to be some bad stretches, but that if you get a couple more wins here and you can kind of even out over about a 15 or 20 game period to start the season, you can get to 500, that I think you're going to be fine and everything's going to be okay. And that is 2 things. Juuse Saros, outside of the Seattle game, has been largely as good as he normally, like as good a version of Juuse Saros as you're going to get. I think last year we're going to see was the outlier. Some of that's the system. Some of that's just having sometimes guys just don't have great years, or at least maybe not up to their standards. Clearly he is off to a great start, which is different for Saros. So I think that's number 1. Can he play like that all year? I think that's absolutely the case. Scott Wedgwood, frankly, was much better in his second start. Very good, I think, compared to the first start. But the other one that struck me, and I don't know about you guys, but it came up in the Tampa game where O'Reilly just scored a spectacular goal falling down on the power play. And the power play, to me, it's not quite all the way there yet, top 8, top 10 status in terms of percentage, but they've scored, I think, 6 out of 9 games. They've scored a power play goal. It is going to save them throughout the course of the year. It's just going to. When they have those 0-2 starts, and they get a couple penalties in a game like that, it is going to allow them to come back or allow them to put someone away. The power play is going to be a thing that when they're not clicking 5-on-5, the power play every single night with those 5 dudes is going to show up and going to be very dangerous, and will have a chance to keep them in games or put games away. That's the one thing where I'm just going, everything we thought in the summertime looks like it's going to be real, and it's just not. I still think it's still not even there yet. Like, it's still not quite all the way there. But the power play, fans should be very excited about the goaltending and the power play. I think both things are sustainable for a full 82-game season.
Yeah, I think I would throw in the penalty kill on that as well. Penalty kill's been fantastic. And I think special teams, what did we talked about it with the playoffs last year. It was like, it's not going to win you games, but it can be the reason that you lose games. And I think we saw that in the playoffs last year. Predators absolutely lost the special teams battle with Vancouver. And that obviously we saw the result of that. So I think that special teams in general, I agree with you on the power play. I don't think it's there yet. But you're seeing it starting to. I'm still seeing a little bit too much of trying to force the puck to Stamkos on the power play. It's like, guys, come on. Like, I'm wondering, maybe, hopefully, perhaps, if now that the Tampa game is out of the way, like maybe we just stop or do it less.
But he had the puck all 3-on-3 in overtime, and I was just like, come on, dude, fairy tale this whole thing. Let's go.
I know, but you know, we can't have nice things like that. So
it's reality TV.
I would even add, not even somewhat, I mean, on the power play, but even 5-on-5, stop trying to force Stamkos to score your goals. I get it. He's the big shiny new toy. He has the track record. I get it. Just let him go out and play hockey. Look at Marchessault. They played the same amount of games. Marchessault's got 2 goals and 6 points because the attention's not really on him. the attention is on Stamkos anytime the puck even goes in his direction. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing that they probably need to fix and work on. And to Emma's point, the number one penalty kill in the NHL belongs to the Predators. The Predators and the Stars are tied, 93.1%. How bad they were last year, we harped on this all offseason. Got to fix the penalty kill. They have done that. I don't know if it's a combination of different players and a different coach coaching the penalty kill this year, but that is something that we all harped on all offseason. They need to fix it, and they actually have gone out and done that. So I think those are they should be commended for the penalty kill, but they should also be torn apart for trying to force the puck to Stamkos, because I think that everyone knows when Stamkos is on the ice, they're going to get the puck to him. So of course that's going to change up the defensive formation.
I think torn apart for trying to get the puck to one of the best power play goal scorers in history. Probably not you don't need to tear them apart for that. Can they ease it in? Can they ease it to him a little bit more? Marcia Show has been basically one of the most active players on the team.
Okay, I'll rephrase it, because I saw this on Twitter too, and I agree with some of the people that were tweeting this. Stop being predictable. You know, when Stamkos is on the ice, the puck's going to him. Yeah, there's a lot of other things they do as well. Stop being so predictable, because when other teams can hone in on what they know you're going to do, it's very easy to stop it.
I will say against Tampa, they were going to Forsberg in the bumper roll first. Like they did that they ran multiple plays to get Forsberg the shot in the high slot first on the first shift on the first faceoff win on the power play. And I thought that was, to your point, use Stamkos as the distraction. Use Stamkos as the decoy. And then once you get people distracted by Forsberg in the slot, which should work, then you've got a little bit more space on the backside for Stamkos. I agree with that. But their best shot on that first power play was Forsberg right off the design play, right off the faceoff. Fantastic puck movement, and he's right there in the slot with a great chance. So keep doing that. Also, Forsberg has been excellent to start the season as well. So there's plenty.
So is Ryan O'Reilly. I feel like O'Reilly is quietly leading the team in scoring, and not a lot of people are paying attention to him, which may be a good thing. Keep underestimating him, overlook him. But 8 points, 3 goals in 9 games is pretty good.
Well, you brought up the power play goal too against Tampa. Thank you. Been a lot of games.
It was a very emotional night, Emma.
It was. I'm still recovering, guys. No,
it's my journey.
Absolutely not true. The power play goal against Tampa, though, it was ugly. He just fell in front of the net and pushed it in. And you have to do that sometimes. Stop trying to create the perfect highlight reel play. Like sometimes, I mean, obviously, don't stop altogether, but like sometimes you got to win ugly, you got to score ugly. And we've seen that from this team. Like they need to be more comfortable doing that.
That's what they're missing. And this might be a little controversial, but they need a Victor Arvidsson type player to go to the front of the net and get hit in the face with an elbow and still be willing to take a beating and chip those pucks in, because those are, how many times have we talked about, well, maybe it's just me, but how many times have we talked about over the last year or two that, oh man, there's so many rebounds they don't get if they just had someone in the right spot. Victor Arvidsson filled that role for this team. They need someone, not saying they need a 5'4" guy to just stand and take a beating, but they need someone that's willing to go in front of the net to just to piss off the goalies and screen the goalies and do that, because they have a lot of success when they do it. They just don't do it very often.
Okay, Arvidsson's like 5'10". Give him some credit. He's not 5'4".
He's short.
I think you're both. I think you might both be.
I think
wrong.
He's like 5'8".
Yeah, I've stood next to him a lot. I
don't know. Well, he's not 5'4" because he's taller than me. So
he's definitely not 5'4". That's true.
No,
Okay, well, ESPN lists him at 5'10", but I think he's 5'8".
I would agree with you, Michael. I think he's like 5'8.5". But anyway, here's the thing.
My apologies, Victor. I'm sorry.
O'Reilly is also scoring goals in like key spots. Right, they're down 2-0 on the road. That he gets a power play goal to bring them back into the game. Was he the one who scored the first goal against Boston? I think there was. He also scored a couple of other goals where it like got things going for them, and you're like, okay, this is what you need, is a guy who's going to score dirty goals in key spots as well. And look, that is what you are asking when you play someone as a top line center. That is the job. And he's doing a great job. He did a great job last year. He just doesn't have to do it all this year. So we'll get to lineup changes. We're going to get to lineup changes. Seems like one of them is working very well. I want to know what else you guys think should be done here. I know you guys have been preaching patience, but we'll get to that. I am going to ask about the trade. I got a great question from Kevin, one of our great subscribers and commenters, about sort of the speed and what's going on there, Central Division stuff as well, and then what's coming up for the Preds in just a minute. But I want to explain and tell all you guys about, of course, Shotgun, Willie's Barbecue, and Sinkers Beverages, are two great and amazing sponsors. Now, here's the deal, guys. Do you guys have to cook for Thanksgiving for yourselves? Or are you guys going to see family? Like, do you have somebody else cooking for you? What's going on?
We're going out to Colorado, so we're having our family do all the cooking.
Family do all the cooking. That's a great way to do it. Emma, same thing for you, I imagine.
Well, I'm not going to Colorado, but I don't know. I still don't know what I'm doing for Thanksgiving, but either way, I will not be cooking. I can tell you that.
Well, here's the deal. I am responsible for feeding my 2 daughters, my wife, my in-laws, and my parents, who are now vegans and vegetarians and will not be cooking meat for Thanksgiving. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, and I'm going to make it a Shotgun Willie's Barbecue Thanksgiving. And it says right here on this slide, if you're watching on YouTube, bring a little of the Lone Star State to your Thanksgiving table this holiday season. You guys want to see it? You guys want to see what it could look like? Brisket and turkey and magic green beans. I don't know what's in those magic green beans, Tony. I don't know what you're putting in there. But look at that. You got Black Hawk Farms whole smoked brisket. You got turkey. You got mashed potatoes. You got glazed carrots. You got jalapeno cornbread. You've got pumpkin pie. You've got turnip greens. They've got your sides. They've got 2 different meats. They got dessert. They got bread. They got the whole meal. You order it from now until the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. You go pick it up. It's all smoked and made for you. It's got instructions. So all you got to do is warm it up on Thursday morning. You know how easy that is to have Shotgun Willie's Barbecue do all the work. But wait, there's more. Thanks for asking, guys. Sinkers Beverages. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue is paired up with Sinkers Beverages. And you can stop by Sinkers Beverages. And if you're watching on YouTube again, you will see the options. Do either of you want to say that top option, that Pinot Noir that's up there, that they're advising for a nice bottle of wine for Thanksgiving dinner? Either of you want to try to say that?
I'm good.
Me too.
Come on. I have no idea how to say Flaneur. The Flaneur Oregon Pinot Noir. I'm not a fancy wine drinker. They got a sparkling rosé in there. They got an Oregon white in there, and it looks like they've got a Syrah. I don't know. I don't drink wine. Anyway, this is why Sinkers Beverages is your home for Thanksgiving, and Shotgun Willie's is your home for Thanksgiving, because they will pair the food and the wine together. All you got to do is make 2 stops on Wednesday, and you are done with your entire Thanksgiving dinner plans. You know how easy and awesome that is? You guys can say, like, oh, that's amazing, guys. Go to Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages.
You just did such a good job. I mean, why mess with perfection?
I'm very distracted by the smoked meats. Okay. So here's the question.
What a very dad thing to say.
Look, dad energy, big dad energy. You do not. So here's the funny thing about this show. You do not have to be a dad. Michael's not, or a male. Emma's not, to have big dad energy. You just have to think that car is going too fast out there. That's all you need to think. And maybe get distracted by smoked meats every now and then. Also, lots of big dad energy in my ad read there. So either way, I'm excited about doing dad jobs really well without having to do any work. You know what I mean? Like, that's a life hack there for Thanksgiving. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages. What about Halloween? I don't want to skip over Halloween because that's on Thursday night. They're going to play Edmonton. Connor McDavid is out, so that's a positive thing for the Nashville Predators. But I don't understand the NHL scheduling hockey games on Halloween night if you really want to have kids enjoy your product, because they're not going to be involved. I will not be watching the game. My kids are not going to be watching the game. It's just not going to happen. Do we have – I want to know what costumes we got going on here between you two. Or are we, like, too cool for Halloween?
Well, I'm 36, so Halloween lost its novelty about 20 years ago. So I will probably just be sitting in watching the Preds game, because that's what I do. I'm an old man, and I watch sports when I'm not writing about sports.
Okay, all
that's
right.
Big dad energy too.
That's true. That's true. Ignoring a holiday for young people. I'm out.
I will be at the game working, so I will be dressing up as a hockey writer. No.
Will there be anybody? There'll be people in the building dressed up, I'm sure. Tons of fans will be dressed up. So anybody on press row dressed up? Nobody?
I don't think so. I would love to see, like, John Glennon or Robbie Stanley just show up in like a.
Oh, Robbie would do it.
Robbie used to show up in a freaking bright red Christmas tree suit for Christmas. So
he would look ridiculous. It would be one of those, talk about big dad energy. It'd be one of those sweaters that actually has lights on it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if Gover's there, Gover would dress up.
Gover would do that on Tuesday in February. Like, just like, oh, this is fun.
That's
Let's
true.
have fun. Kevin says leprechaun. Look, I've been trying to get the photo of my costume because we had a Halloween party on Saturday night for all the kids with all the kids and their parents in the area, and I've been trying to figure out how to get this picture on there. I'm kind of glad I can't figure it out. Also, Big Dad Energy. not working the dot end of the file well. Okay, Kevin, you're in the comments, and I'm going to start with your question, which is, are they playing too fast? Is that part of their problem? And certainly the system being fast and having to learn how to play in the system fast, which takes time, as we've learned last year and this year, is a factor. I think when I notice the speed causing mistakes or little miscues, it's mostly with the new guys. It's mostly with Brady Shea, who sometimes is just skating so fast that he falls down, which happens more than I would expect from a player who can skate with his ability. Jonathan Marchessault seems to be passing the puck occasionally where it's just like not going to the right place because maybe a guy was too slow or too fast, or he was too slow or too fast. Stamkos occasionally, you look at that line, and some of that's the center problem, but some of that's just Stamkos adapting as well and maybe not being as speedy as he used to be. But Shea and Marchessault are very good skaters. They're faster-ish players on the team. Do you think that they're playing too fast as a team, that's part of the problem, that the whole team, including the new guys, in terms of why it's taking some time for this? That was Kevin's question on Lower Broad. Big Dad Energy is talking while your mic is
My bad. I never used to mute my mic, and then last week you told me to start doing it.
I know. It might be the title of the episode, just Big Dad Energy.
I don't think it's too much speed. I think it's that they don't have timing down. The timing and the synchronicity of it is just it's all out of whack to me. And I think, I mean, look, everybody knows Andrew Burnett's system is predicated on speed and aggression. So, like, I don't think this was a foreign concept to Marchessault and Stamkos and Shea coming here knowing that this was what was expected of them. It's just, again, the line blender thing we talked about. There's just, you're seeing a team that has the pieces that's just not together because they haven't had the time to build the chemistry. So I think it'll get there. I don't think you have to worry about them playing with too much speed. I think the timing is what we're seeing. It looks like they're trying to do too much because they're not in the right places. I think it'll get resolved eventually.
I totally agree. I think they're not playing too fast. They need to catch up to to where that they're trying to play right now. And a lot of it is timing. So much of it is timing and positioning. And once they can get that down, it'll be fine.
So I think it's interesting because I think I agree with you guys that the timing is off, but I think the timing is off because you are either a step slow or a step fast. Those are the reasons timing would be off in theory. You're not getting to the right place. Also, there's again, I think with the passing, sometimes you see a pass go into the neutral zone as an exit pass, and it's just there's nobody there because they've skated into another space. And you're just like, oh, that was a mistake. And that's because either the pass was too late or too slow, or the player receiving the pass was too late or too slow. And I think it would be very human nature for new players and even just sort of the whole team kind of readapting and kind of readjusting to the season again to say that you started off a step slow because you're getting used to the speed of the system, and then to overcompensate with a little bit too much speed. That would be, to me, that would come as very human nature to me. Like that makes logical sense to me. I agree, though, that it's the timing that is off, that it takes effort, shifts, games for that timing to become very pristine and very accurate. It just takes some time. So maybe one guy's too slow on one shift or one pass was too fast on another. I think it is timing. But I think Kevin's onto something. It does feel like at times Shea is trying to do a lot. He's trying to keep up with everything that's going on. Not that he can't, but that he's got to get used to the right speed. And it feels like at times Brady Shea is just trying to skate so fast because he's a good skater that sometimes is like a half a beat too much. I don't know. I see what he's saying. I agree with you guys, but I also see what Kevin is saying as well.
Well, also when you start out 0-5, you tend to try to do and overcompensate and do too much. So maybe maybe they are trying to outskate what they're doing, and maybe they are trying to play faster than what they should be doing because the pressure's really on to get that win. The pressure's really on to start stacking points and stacking wins because this fan base we saw how unruly they were 5 games into this. Could you imagine if they're 3-10? It's going to be bad. So the pressure's on, and you tend to, squeeze your stick too tightly. You tend to try to overcompensate. So I think that's a lot of what plays into it as well.
Yeah, no question about that. Kevin says brain speed and skate speed haven't synced up, just like my mouth and those words. So
I'm sorry, are we going to just completely skip over Kevin's earlier comment? Because I don't know what it was in reference to, but I have to agree entirely.
Magic?
Nope, after that. You're just not even
oh,
gonna.
okay. All right. I see. What it
Wow,
is. I
you're
see
not
what it
even
is.
gonna let me have my moment.
There we
Yes,
go.
Emma is so wise. Thank you so much. I don't know what that was in reference to, but I agree. Thank you. Just wanted to have my moment.
He
Carry
also
on.
said, Mike, tap on your screen if you need to speak. So my job is just to, more. Look at this. This is now, Kevin, this is now pandering at this point.
I'm here for it.
You're now just pandering to Emma. All right. What about line changes? We sort of mentioned Jonathan Marchessault going up to the top line and breaking that up. Nyquist has scored a couple of goals since then. It seems like I think Jonathan Marchessault on the top line with Forsberg and O'Reilly is a very, very sneaky good line and could be the best line this team's had in a long time. It's not a knock on Gus Nyquist, who, again, is doing well down with Stamkos, and who knows who else is going to be at center. I got a couple of numbers here, I think, from Adam. This is the Stamkos, Novak, Nyquist line. They played 10-49 2 games ago, 65% expected goals, which is way better than what Novak was doing with Evangelista and Stamkos at like 5% early in the year. Then they just played 5 minutes against Tampa. Again, totally different team, different makeup. I guess that first one I think was against Columbus on Saturday. But the XG in that 5 minutes was 31%. And Andrew Burnett has been, it's not that he necessarily sees these numbers per se. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, because a lot of these companies do contract with NHL teams in real time. But the fact that he has had a quick hook on Novak multiple times when it's clear that the metrics say that Novak is not driving offense, that's interesting. Colton Sissons got moved up to that middle line. So those are two big ones. I want to also ask about the defense with the Shea, because I know, Michael, you wrote about this last week with Yossi and Shea sort of being stocked down. Thoughts on Marchessault on the top line, thoughts on the second line center, and thoughts on the defensive pairings. Go.
Yeah, I mean, I like Marchessault on the top line, and I know Nyquist hasn't played bad, but it almost just feels like if you're gonna have your second line, it almost feels like Evangelista kind of needs to be on there. But again, that might just be nitpicking too much. The one thing I will say, and we've talked about this over and over and over, the Predators have used 28 different forward line combinations through 9 games. That needs to stop. It really does. You're not going to build your chemistry. You're not going to have time to gel. You're not going to have any sort of consistency when you're changing the lines so much. And it's not just like, 28 different line combinations with like 10 of them playing 30 seconds or whatever. Like a lot of them are playing 5 minutes or more together. And I know sometimes you go with a different look in a game because based off of what the other team's giving you, and there's other factors that weigh into it, but you need some sort of consistency. I do think Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault could be it. I would like to see the Nyquist, Stamkos, Novak line stick. I just don't have faith that Andrew Burnett's going to leave that line alone for more than a couple games, especially if it doesn't work and they try something different and they win a game, because Andrew Burnett has shown that once he wins a game, he will stick with that lineup until he doesn't win any more games. So I don't know. I'm very weary about the lineup staying the way it is when they find success, but I think leaving Marchessault on the top line probably is a good idea.
It's because they don't have a second line center.
Emma? Well, listen to me and Adam. Go get Trevor Zegras.
Well, we'll discuss that in a second.
No, I agree. I really like Marchessault on the top line. And Nyquist has been producing of late too. I think he's got goals in 3 of the last 4 games. I think he didn't have one against Columbus, but he's had one in the 3 of the last 4 games. So I think that it's good. I like that top line. I like the fourth line. My issue with the whole second line center / Evangelista should be on the second line thing is that Tommy Novak and Luke Evangelista play so well together that I have a hard time breaking them up. So if you decide that Tommy Novak is not going to be your 2C and you're going to put him on the third line and put Sissons on the second line, then Evangelista also has to be on the third line. with Novak because they play extremely well together. I actually like the Novak Evangelista Jankowski combination. I like it a lot.
I was just going to say that line right there you just mentioned is third on the team in goals for per 60 minutes.
So I think Jankowski is that I mean not the same build obviously, but kind of the guy you were talking about earlier, where he's the guy who stands in front of the net and screens the goalie, and you let Novak and Evangelista do their thing, and he can kind of punch it in at the end if you need him to. And I don't know, again, we all know I'm a big Colton Sissons fan, and also know that I don't think he's a legit 2C. I mean, he can play that role. He can play any role, but it's not giving you the best chance for success, I don't think.
I think that's the issue is Colton Sissons has been the most productive on the second line with Stamkos and Marchessault, but that's just not the role that you need him to play on this team. So that it's a catch-22. What do you do with Sissons? Because that's the numbers say that's where he's producing and playing the best right there, but you can't keep him there.
All right, so I got a bunch of answers to all these questions because I think you guys are right on a lot of this stuff. So I agree, and this hurts me to say this out loud, but I have to do it. Luke Evangelista doesn't scare me with the puck on his stick trying to shoot the puck. Those wrist shots have not been scary. They've not been threatening. It's not a knock on him. It's just maybe not his strength. You know who can score in those situations because we just saw him team up with Stamkos to do it? Gus Nyquist can score in those situations when he has an opportunity. 1v1 with an angle, he can score. And Evangelista has not been dangerous in those situations. So that's number one, and it hurts to say it out loud. But that's why I'm okay with Nyquist on the second line. So that means I agree with you, Emma, that Evangelista and Novak need to be together on the third line. So we kind of do orders of operation here. We go, okay, well, if Nyquist is better, he needs to be with Stamkos. Okay. Novak and Evangelista stay together because Novak simply cannot, it's just not working with Stamkos for whatever reason. They've tried it. It's just not working. Third line, that gives them a little scoring pop in the third line, which Andrew Burnett wants. Could you upgrade the left winger with Jankowski to someone who could score a little bit more consistently? Maybe, but I think you got to have players like Jankowski to win in the NHL level, which leaves us Colton Sissons as the second line center. So here's my theory I posited on the Monday, or I guess the Tuesday show this week on the Gold Standard Extra with Adam, which is I think we're reaching a point where it's almost a good thing that there is no clear number two center. And I don't mean that in a we're going to win games because of that situation, but that we now have collected enough data to know what we need to go do to try to compete for a championship, which is find a second line center. And that is where we bring in Zegras or fill in the blank. No one's trading right now. We know that's not going to happen. Can Colton Sissons man that position and keep the team in relative competition for the Central Division, for playoff spots, etc., until they can work a larger deal for a player that is a true second C that can take that pivot role with Stamkos and Nyquist or fill in the blank. I think they actually are reaching a point where they have learned that's not Tommy Novak's role. They already kind of know it's not Colton Sissons' role, but now that they have the knowledge and the data that says that's all true, it makes it easier for me as an analyst to say, now you need to go get someone, and I feel more comfortable saying that. And they have the pieces to go do it. This is where Dante Fabro, Philip Tomasino, draft picks, and prospects, I think you could absolutely find a package deal to go get somebody that's an upgrade over Sissons. And you still need Colton because you can't win without him on the team too, playing his roles. Does that make sense? It's like almost, it's just clarity is a benefit here is how I'm viewing it.
It makes sense, but here's the problem is that a lot of teams need centers right now. And so it's not just like, oh, okay, the Predators know what they have to go do. But yeah, Kyle Turris, hey, he's already on the payroll. It's fine. I think, no, it's not just like, okay, they know what they have to go do and go get a center. Other teams have figured that out too. So competition's going to be stiffer. The trade asking price is probably going to be higher. I've seen a couple people already saying, let's go get Mikhail Granlund back. And I need everyone who's thinking that to just like sit back, reevaluate your life for a moment.
Insert the immediately to jail gif.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. You can both put me in jail for a straw man argument here. Is he better at playing center than Colton Sissons?
No.
Okay. All right. There you go.
I mean, no, like everyone's like, oh, he's leading the San Jose Sharks in points. I'm like, it's the San Jose Sharks.
Is he a better offensive center than Colton Sissons? The answer is yes.
He can be.
Yes.
Yes, but he's not consistent. Colton Sissons is more consistent.
Could you get me Kyle Granlund for a good Halloween costume and some brisket for Thanksgiving? Probably. Also an argument in his favor.
I don't know.
I am kidding. I'm totally
I've
kidding.
seen it from multiple people. I've seen multiple people say
is Gover one of them?
No, he's not. I mean, at least not yet. Surprisingly, he has not posited that theory to me, but I have seen it in the cesspools of social media. I'm like, you guys, I need y'all to, you know who else is available? Ryan Johansson. Let's go back and get him out there. You know, it's like,
can he stand?
And his broken hip.
How's
I don't know.
Back in the hip. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I have a broken hip right now, so I don't think that like if I can walk, he can, but I wouldn't trust myself to skate. But you know, it's
so, and I'll just throw in there too. The problem with going out and trying to get a center is it's a hot commodity. It's going to cost you a lot. So this isn't a case where Tomasino, Fabro, and a first is going to get you someone like Trevor Zegras. It's going to cost you a lot more. You're probably going to have to give up one of your top prospects. Are you going to want to give up? Are you going to want to give up a David Edstrom? I would, but I think we all knew I wasn't happy with that trade. But it's going to cost you more to go out and get a player like that too. And plus, there's not really a lot of marquee names out there. I mean, Brock Nelson is probably the only the other big name out there, and he's not even really a big name. So I mean, it's
here's the argument though, and I hear you.
I think you're getting into a point where are you upgrading because you feel like you need to, and then if you're bringing in the best player that's available on the trade market, is he really an upgrade or is he just the best player that was available?
Well, I think most would be an upgrade over Colton Sissons offensively if they want to win a championship. Yes. To play that position. Again, this is not a knock on Colton Sissons. He has been promoted beyond the point of competency. He is great at so many things. You need him to do those other things. It's not an anti-Colton Sissons take. It is I think this team has a chance to win big, but they can't. I think it's clear now that they cannot do that without an upgrade at 2C. And if you go all in, like you're doing with Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and all these guys, you're spending a fortune to try to win a championship over the next 3 years or 4. I think it makes it easier to analyze and look at as a fan to say, we need to, yes, overspend, deliver a prospect, a high-level draft pick. And yes, if it's Fabro and Tomasino, I'm just using them as placeholders, as like young, valuable NHL ready-ish pieces that you can deploy. And you need to go get a legitimate guy. And I know they're hard to come by. I know they don't exist on trees, and I know you're going to have to overpay. But the way I'm thinking about this is that it's so clear that guy gives them a chance to win a championship because they got all the other stuff. Maybe not on defense. Maybe we can talk about that. And we go, hey, they're not that close. Maybe you guys are willing to say that too. I don't know. If we don't think this team is close or a center away, then you're right. Going to make that trade is maybe a terrible decision. I don't know. I just think it's clarity, and clarity is information, and information is valuable.
Here's the thing, though, which I think we haven't talked about, because to Michael's earlier point about we need to stop with all of the constant line shuffling. Yeah, I think you need to give Stamkos a longer look at center, quite frankly. Listen, the solution here is right under your nose. Like the solution, the short-term solution. Obviously, you know, he's not going to be a big piece for your future the way that Zegras is. But I think that in the immediate term, that's your answer. You need to try that. I'm not saying like it's for sure going to work, but you gave him what, one game, not even one full game at center. And also it could potentially help fix some of these other issues we're seeing. Like maybe if he's playing center and he's the one driving the offense, then guys aren't going to be constantly trying to feed him the puck all the time, which is so predictable. And so I think I'm not saying for sure that's going to work, but we don't know because we haven't given it a chance.
You could potentially fix two problems with one solution.
Who plays on the left wing on that line with Nyquist and Stamkos?
I think you could. I mean, you have options. You could
drop Forsberg down, break up the top line. I don't know. What do you?
No, you can't drop Forsberg off the top line. I think you either move Novak to the wing, but then again, you lose the Novak Evangelista. I mean, Sissons can play wing too if you need him to. I
also a guy like Evangelista I don't feel threatened by when has the puck on his stick and open to shoot. Just doesn't.
So okay, so then you put. I don't
disagree with your ideas here, guys. I like
the correct answer is Luke Evangelista.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Novak ultimately gets, if that happens, Novak is the guy they try there first. But yeah. I feel like Novak is better suited to playing center than he is out on either of the wing positions. But he has done it, so we know like he's competent, he's capable of doing it. But like left wing is Luke Evangelista's natural position. I would rather take my chances with Stamkos centering him than I would with Novak out there.
But Novak, Sissons, Jankowski doesn't really turn me on the third line because it feels like they're all really good at what they do, but they're all miscast on that line is what it feels like to me. But I agree with you. On July 2nd, I believe, was July 1st the first day of spending on the free agency? I think on July 2nd, I believe I said Stamkos center, Evangelista wing, please.
Then if that's how you feel, then I wouldn't be opposed to moving Leroux up to the third line left wing and trying that out, seeing how it goes.
Yeah.
I like that. That's kind of.
I was thinking that too.
Kind of fun.
Or and then you drop Jankowski down to the fourth line. I mean,
Jankowski, McCarron, Smith. That could be a pretty good fourth line.
I don't know why that wouldn't be solid. That group. The other thing is you could also, if there's trades involved in all of this, then Parson and Tomasino are a factor or pieces that trade away. Here's the other thing to y'all's original point, which is stability and patience, which I think I totally agree with. You have a floor that you now know exists. That's not too. It's a fairly high floor. It's not a high ceiling, but it's a high floor. Stamkos, Sissons, and Nyquist. If you want to leave that group together until you find a solution and allow them some patience to play together, I don't think that line is going to lose you many games. It may not win you a lot of games, but it's not going to lose you a lot of games because Sissons is very good at what he does. And so I think you have kind of a high floor with that line. If you wanted to let it marinate for a while, knowing that you get the Novak Evangelista thing below that, and you know what I'd really like to see is Leroux with Novak and Evangelista. That could be fun.
I do like the idea of moving Leroux up and moving Jankowski down and seeing what that would look like again, but again, Leroux already, not through no fault of his own, just by the fact that he is not a proven commodity yet. He is on such a short leash. And so he's probably not going to get that opportunity under Andrew Brunette.
What would really be interesting, it's not going to happen, but trying out Tomasino on that second line with Stamkos as the center. That would be a lot of fun to watch. I don't know how successful it would be, but I mean, if you want to really, really throw a wrench in the plans, like try that out.
I'd almost rather have Parson in. I was just texted, somebody just texted me, a host and producer on the 440 Sports Network who's a diehard Tampa Bay Lightning fan who sent me a Stamkos to center ? Pukey face. Might as well just send him back to Tampa. Chill out, JT. Calm your face down. Here's the issue, though.
Hey, what happened to Emma is so wise? Let's bring that back.
No. Here's ultimately the problem with all of this. They don't have the answer in house. They don't really, not for a championship. If you want to make the playoffs and be a wild card team and maybe win a series, I think they can do it with what they've got. If you want to win a championship or at least contend for the Western Conference Final, which is kind of where we all said defining success for this team, the guy who's going to truly make this team is going to make a difference on the second line is probably not on the roster. If we're grasping for all these different concepts, which are all good and creative ideas, and Barry Trotz has said everything has to happen in-house right now, that may not be the case at the end of November, at the end of December, or in the middle of January. And when the season gets a little further along, that's why I think I'm okay with Sissons playing second line center for now, because it's like, all right, he's good enough for now to give you a certain level of competition. And for now, that can keep you in the race. That can keep you contending for a division. That can keep you in the 3 seed potentially if you win a bunch of games. I'm not worried about them falling out of contention with Sissons as the second line center. I'm not.
I don't think they
can win a championship, though.
I think that's part of this. I think because we knew the day that the free agency started and they signed Marchessault, Stamkos, and Shea, we knew that they didn't have the 2C on the roster. Yeah. Barry Trotz knew that even when he signed Tommy Novak to his extension right before last trade deadline. Yep. I think what you just laid out, Braden, is exactly Barry Trotz's plan. The roster is good enough to get to the trade deadline. The trade deadline is when I make my move and I get the 2 center that's going to put us over the top and let us compete for a championship. I think this is, as much as fans don't like it because it looks bad right now, I think this was by design. This was what Barry Trotz had in mind going into the season because he knew I mean, yes, they were selling Tommy Novak as he's got potential. He could be the 2C, but no one was kidding themselves. Tommy Novak is not a 2 center on a Stanley Cup championship team. I think this was what they had in mind. They knew we just need to get to around about the trade deadline because that's when we're going to get the final piece that's going to put us there. I think that they had this in mind once free agency started because they knew they didn't sign a 2 center in free agency. So
I that's my entire theory. And here's the last bit of this is to be the first one to act. To be like, don't wait until the deadline. Don't wait until the first week of February. Do it in the middle of January. Do it even earlier than that and be the first one to set the market. So go be the one. And if that means you overpay and people underpay after you, I don't care. Go get the guy that you like the most, overpay for him, and get him early in the process. And then put him in place, let him learn the system, let him learn his line mates, and let this team stabilize for all of, a little bit of January, all of February, March, and April, and let's see what happens in the playoffs. Because then if you go get and I'm just using Zegras as a placeholder here, but if you go get that guy and he's your second line center with those 6 guys at the top and some of the talent they got down below, with Saros playing well and a great power play, this team could beat anybody. I'm not saying they win a championship, but they could beat anybody in a playoff series. So,
and before people start chiming in, because I've seen this on Twitter too, there's going to be people who are like, oh, Zegras isn't a center. He is a center. He's a natural center. That's where he started his career. He had 2 65-point seasons as a center. He's been playing forward on Anaheim's roster now just because they have an abundance of centers. But I know someone's going to come out there and say that. I just want to get ahead of that. Trevor Zegras is a center.
Also, there's a lot of talk, and Adam said this, like, oh, there's a lot of folks that are like, oh, he's not a winning guy who's like a great Barry Trotz Predator player. And it's like, you don't have to sign him to an 8-year contract. You need him for 8 weeks. You don't need him for 8 years. You need him to be a great second line center. You need him to be a mercenary. I've hired you to come in here and dominate on the second line. Let's go. Also,
too, I was writing a story back when I worked for Nashville Hockey Now that just got squashed because,
lowerbroadhockey.com
politics. But ultimately, the story never got published. But Trevor Zegras responds from people I've talked to. Trevor Zegras responds to, I don't want to say authoritative coaches, but coaches that call him on his shit and don't let him get away with it. He completely clashes with the Ducks head coach right now. And it's clear that they want him out of there. He doesn't want to be there. Andrew Burnett, I think, is the kind of coach that could get him to respond, that could get him to reach his potential. So, like you said, even if you just need him for 8 weeks, I think Andrew Burnett can make that relationship work. When you have someone who's so offensively talented and you have a head coach that coaches the way that Burnett does, I think that relationship could work.
Well, I was going to ask you guys about the Central Division, but we'll wait until next week because it's been a wild start to the year. I mean, Utah's already trading for people because their defense core is so injured. So we'll get to some of that. Sinkers, Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out both of them, of course, and also Lower Broad Hockey. Check out all of our stuff. I know you got the stock report coming soon for the good folks over there at Lower Broad Hockey. The defensive core, we didn't get really a chance to talk about that, so I want to wrap up quickly with a quick conversation about that. What is going on with Dante Fabro being scratched? Like, is it serve the team any good to have him on the bench? Like, I know there's pictures of Stasny out there supposedly skating, but not in Nashville. What is going on with the defense pairings right now, outside of Lozon and Carrier, which we know are going to be together?
Well, we saw, Dante Fabro got back in the lineup. Mark Del Gaizo was sent to Milwaukee. Again, we all know, once again, the solution is right under our noses, but it's not going to happen. I'm not going to be the one that says it. I'm not going to be the one that says it out loud, but
put Luke Shen on the bench?
Yes.
I want to know
the easiest solution. You bring Del Gaizo back, and if you that way, I think you can have, if you want to put Shea with Yossi, that's another thing that I don't think was given enough time before the plug was pulled on that one. But if you put Shea and Yossi together, and then you put Del Gaizo and Fabro on the third pairing, I would like to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that would be a good solution. I want to know who the hell in this organization Luke Shen has dirty pictures of, or whatever it is. There's no reason. And look, Luke Shen is
accusing him of blackmail now, guys.
He's a very nice guy. He's just not a great hockey player, and it's not personal. So I feel like every time we beat this drum, it sounds like we're just shitting on the guy. It has nothing to do with it. It's very clear that the answer to fixing the defensive problems is to put Shen on the bench and try something different, because the common denominator with all of the issues we've been talking about with the defense is that Luke Shen is still there and he doesn't bring that much value. I think a Del Gaizo Fabro pairing would actually play really well together. We're not going to get a chance to see it because Del Gaizo's back in Milwaukee, and I don't know what's going on with Stastny. No one has any answers. Barry Trotz even was on the radio and was like, I have no idea what's going on with them.
Normally you can, being around the team, you can kind of poke and prod and kind of get a general direction about where people are going. Generally, people are very tight-lipped about the personal stuff, but this one has been extraordinarily tight-lipped. We've got no insight on this one.
And clearly he's not injured because he's out there skating. Like there's photos of him like on the ice, like he's still there. Like, don't know what's going on. He signed his contract. There's no one's given anything. And I've texted so many people trying to get a little breadcrumb, and everyone's like, sorry, dude, I got nothing for you. So I don't know if just genuinely no one knows what's going on, or if they're just keeping it very close to the vest. But if Stastny came back, that would be a solution as well.
Yeah. Kevin and some of the folks, Patrick, are y'all in the comments talking about O'Reilly. Can you get a second line center in this trade that we're talking about hypothetically that would eventually take over for O'Reilly? Because some of the conversation around acquiring O'Reilly at the beginning of last season was that maybe he's a number 2 center. Look, he is clearly proven he is their best version of that position and is frankly as good as Ryan Johansson has ever been from a consistency standpoint. But he's not a young player. So I think it's very obvious that he is their top center until he's not a center anymore, not a second line guy or a third line guy. I think it's very clear. And here's the other thing. If you watch the best centers in playoff games, like the Jonathan Taves types player, they're not guys that go out there and need to score a bunch of goals. Sometimes those top line centers are the guys that do everything. And Ryan O'Reilly does everything for you. So I think
O'Reilly is the definition of
I think he's perfect there.
Yeah, he's the guy that always doesn't show up on the score sheet, but he always he factors into the game somehow by doing the little things and stuff. And he and Forsberg have been the two constants on this team. I don't think you can mess with either of them. You leave them alone. Even if you go out and trade for Zegras, I don't think you move Zegras up into the one center role until O'Reilly is off this team.
I totally agree. He's earned it. He's the guy that's there. This is an interesting take from Kevin that will probably require some offseason research. Living with Ryan Johansson broke Dante Fabro. I cannot confirm nor deny, but that's a nice thread to pull on there, Kevin. Emma, care to comment?
Nope. I'm not touching that.
I think that is a fair thread, Kevin, for you to pull on. Oh, man. Okay. All right. Is that about everything? Is that good? Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willies. I put the wrong H in the wrong word there. Shinkers Beverages. Shotgun Willies. Shotgun Willies Barbecue. Sinkers Beverages. 2 great local businesses that have been providing work for the community for almost 40 years in Sinkers' case, and almost 10 years, I think. Pitmaster Bill's been cooking food in this city. Both award-winning, both locally owned and operated, providing service to the community. Keep those dollars in the community. Keep them in the community, folks, and support Lower Broad Hockey as well. You can follow Michael on @MGSports_, @Emma_Lingan. And last one for me here. Please go vote. Okay? Transit's the only thing that's really on the ballot this year for you in Nashville and Davidson County. You can vote for all the other stuff too, but we already know what's going to happen in the state of Tennessee. It's foregone conclusion. But transit's important. If you want to get to Predators games at Bridgestone Arena, like our great and amazing food writer in this city, Chris Chamberlain, who takes the bus everywhere. Shout out, Chris. If you want better, you don't want to pay for parking, you want to get to Bridgestone Arena in downtown easier, vote for transit, please. Go vote. I don't care which way you vote, but go vote. Early voting ends on Halloween, which is tomorrow, and then you can avoid everything on Tuesday next week. Why would you want to be involved with that? Don't be involved in next Tuesday. So go vote, everybody, please, and support good local folks, good local businesses. Anything else? So Halloween, you are sitting at home, Michael, and you were at the game, and I'm the one out partying. Just getting chocolate drunk the entire night.
It's like partying. Are you going to be trick-or-treating with your children? Because, go off.
Do you guys not know how adults trick-or-treat? Do you guys not know this? Okay. The kids
get drunk?
Kind of.
That's how I would do it.
The kids carry bags of candy. We have a cart like that we roll behind us that is loaded with things like cups, ice, beverages, beer, wine, mixed drinks. There's like 8 or 10 parents that just walk around with the cart while the kids go house to house. We just walk with our cart. Yes, it's a beverage thing for parents for sure.
You totally just missed another opportunity to plug Sinkers.
Sinkers Beverages, everybody.
Emma set you up for the perfect read.
If you need your Halloween trick-or-treat beverage cart filled with goodies for adults, go swing by Sinkers Beverages, y'all. Award-winning craft beer fridge. So there you go. Have some craft beer. Don't drink and drive, but definitely drink and trick or treat. It's the way to go. It's the way to go. All right, everybody, thank you for commenting. Thank you for being a part of this. As always, you guys are great. Michael, thanks for talking on the podcast today.
Thanks for granting me permission.
I apologize. And remember, everybody, hockey fights everyone. For Michael and Emma, I am Braden. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go vote. Go enjoy Halloween. Be safe. And we'll talk to you guys next week.